Hello, my name is Ramin Jalili, and this is my critical assignment for anatomy and physiology. And the organ that I have chosen is the brain. So let's talk a little bit about what the brain is and the anatomy of the brain. So our brain is an amazing 3-pound organ that controls functions of the body and interprets information. And things like intelligence, creativity, um, um, emotion, and memory are a few things that the brain controls. Now, the brain is protected within the skull. The brain is composed of the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. So these are the main components. The brain also receives information through our 5 senses: our sight, our smell, touch, taste, and our hearing, often many at one time. Um, so the brain also controls thoughts, memory, speech, movement of our arms and legs, and the function of many organs of our body. So if we look here at what makes up the brain. So the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem are three basic parts of the brain, if we were to divide them in these three major parts. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain and is composed of the right and the left brain. It's called the right and left hemisphere. And it performs higher functions like interpreting touch, vision, and hearing. And also reasoning and our emotions and control of movement of our bodies. So the next one is cerebellum. The cerebellum is located under the cerebrum, and its function is basically to coordinate muscle movements and maintain our posture and maintain our balance. And then we have the brainstem. So the brainstem is basically acting as a relay center connecting the cerebrum and the cerebellum. It connects them to our spinal cord. And it performs many functions such as breathing, our heart rate, what else? Our sleep and waking up cycles, coughing, sneezing, vomiting. All these are controlled by the brainstem. So let me go here. I want to talk about the 4 main parts here, or the lobes. Now this is the physiology of the brain and what they do. The physiology of the brain and the lobes of the brain. So we have the frontal, the parietal, the occipital, and the temporal. Now the frontal is basically controls our planning, our thinking, our organizing, our problem solving, and short-term memory. So the parietal, it interprets sensory information such as touch or temperature. Now the occipital, which is like the occipital nerve, the occipital lobes, they process images from our eyes and link it to information that we have in our memory. And the temporal lobes are responsible for smell, taste, and sound. And they also help, this is where they also help with the function of storing things for memory. Okay, now let's see here. A recent intervention in medicine. I want to talk about a new possible treatment for Alzheimer's. Now, we don't have a cure for Alzheimer's yet, uh, and we have certain medicines that we probably we believe that it might slow down or have some role in slowing down the symptoms, but this disease is extremely dangerous, as you can see, and very deadly. It beats breast cancer, prostate cancer, heart disease, stroke, HIV. You see here on the graph that it's up by 71% from the year 2000 to 2013. So what is Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's is basically a form of dementia. It's progressive brain disease that slowly destroys our memories and our thinking skills. And usually like 5, 10 to 20 years, the Alzheimer's often starts before these symptoms appear. The symptoms that start that usually start are difficulty remembering information. In advanced stages, you have mood swings, you have difficulty learning new information. So this is basically what Alzheimer's is. And about the study was done in July of 2018, so not that long ago, pretty recently. They came up with a drug, a medicine called BAN, BAN 2401. And what this does is basically our bodies have beta amyloid, which is a protein, and we all have it. However, people who have Alzheimer's diseases, the body's process, the normal process for getting beta amyloids out of the brain stops working. So they have these enzymes called beta secretase and gamma secretase, and these proteins cut the beta amyloid in a way that it doesn't get rid of it and it leaves fragments. So these toxic fragments start to accumulate in the brain and forms in the starts turning into plaque. And this is what scientists believe that is causing the dementia and the Alzheimer's. So BAN 2401, it's a type of antibody that they have tested. In this clinical test, they gave a placebo, and then they gave the actual antibody BAN 2401, and they found that it was particularly good in stopping the fragments from continuing to exist, basically getting rid of and pulling those fragments, which are called protofibrils. So they stop these from accumulating and turning into plaque, so for the most part. So that showed that it slows down the process for Alzheimer's. Although it didn't cure it, it slowed it down and it helped a lot with the symptoms. So this could be a big step in finding something else which actually directly targets the problem. So next, I would like to talk about some scripture here, and let me just pull up some of these verses I have here. I want to relate this really quick. Alzheimer's and dementia and things like this with the brain have to do with hardships and difficulties. And what does the Bible say about this? Basically, it's talking about being grateful, and it's talking about being positive and having a good outlook. So one of these verses is in 2 Corinthians, which says, "We are not discouraged, even though our outer nature suffers decay, our inner self is renewed day after day." So we're not discouraged, even though things are looking really bad for us. We're not discouraged, and we don't lose hope, and we don't despair in God's mercy. This is what we can learn from that verse. Another verse is in Psalms 55:22, which says, "Cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous fall." So if you have faith, and you have to realize that we are human at the end of the day, and our problems and our difficulties can really bring us down to our knees, and take a lot out of us. So basically it's saying, let God, cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. Let him take care of you. Let God take care of you in these difficult times, and rely on him when you're afflicted with such hardships and calamities. And the last verse is in Ephesians 2:10, which says, "We are God's handiwork, created to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." So basically what it's telling us is that, in this instance, like, the disease does not change this truth, that God still has a purpose for those of us who are suffering with things like Alzheimer's, for example. When we remember that God is in control, that he is good, and that he is for our good, we can easily accept the reality of different things that befall us, and we can make sense of them in that way. And that will conclude the critical assignment, and God bless.